So this situation is blowing up like wildfire on social media, and I have done some research. I've been digging up some research on this. So basically, before I begin, I first like to state this: there was an incident between Shannon Sharpe and Chad Johnson. Apparently, Chad Johnson was late for his appearance on Nightcap, and that got Shannon Sharpe upset about it, and he displayed his frustration live and direct on their live stream when he was communicating with Chad Johnson. Also, there was an incident. I don't know if it was in the same settings of this particular live stream, or maybe this was a recent live stream, whatever. Shannon Sharpe got frustrated with with the technical difficulties with him hearing some sound from something that was already inputted, and it, kind of frustrated him. So we're just going to address these things separately, as well as Chad's response. We're going to try to do all this in one video. I'm not going to chop it up into two videos. So basically, if you've been living under a rock, allow your boy to explain. Shannon Sharpe was very frustrated with Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson was supposed to appear on Nightcap. This is a live stream on Nightcap. He was late at that presentation, and Chad Johnson basically told Shannon Sharpe. I'm pretty sure he said this to Shannon Sharpe privately as well as publicly, that he was late due to some technical difficulties of his own with his car. He got locked out of his car. He called a locksmith. Now, normally these things take like maybe 1-2 hours for the guy to get there and to unlock your car. So, I don't know what type of situation. I don't know how he could avoid that. Now, when he finally got there, Shannon Sharpe was not happy. And basically, he talked about how he wants to take Shannon Sharpe to another stratosphere. He wants Shannon Sharpe to work hard at it. Low key saying Shannon Sharpe was saying you need to be a little bit more professional. That situation could have been avoided if you would have had your own driver. I'm not 1,000% sure if that situation would have been totally unavoidable. Maybe the driver would have locked his keys inside of the vehicle, or Uber, getting there late. Okay, there are 1,001 reasons why people are late. But nevertheless, Shannon Sharpe took it upon himself to talk about how, how Chad Johnson worked for ESPN inside the NFL, and talked about his situation, how he got to those destinations. It was a little, he said, she said. Shannon Sharpe is referring to those other destinations. You got someone to drive you there. And Chad Johnson denied the the one with the ESPN situation. Now, with Inside the NBA, he said in the beginning he drove himself, but then later on he got them to just give him a ride, or have a driver there for him. But nevertheless, they displayed this frustration live on the live stream of Nightcap. You know how people clip things. They chopped it up. They put it on social media. Everyone is, displaying their issues with Shannon Sharpe. And, basically the biggest thing I can get out of everyone's frustrations at it is, it's kind of funny how Shannon Sharpe didn't want to be sunned or be embarrassed live on television, or just television period, when Skip Bayless did him that, the situation with him and Skip Bayless. And people saying it's funny how you're doing this extra with Chad Johnson, but you didn't go this length with Skip Bayless. And then, Shannon Sharpe did take to social media. He answered a lot of people's tweets and questions and things of that nature. here's my opinion on the whole gravity of this situation between Shannon Sharpe, Chad Johnson, and Shannon Sharpe, and the technical difficulties and things of that nature. Let's just go ahead and just swoop all of this down in one setting. First and foremost, Shannon Sharpe, he really doesn't get his flowers. He's an incredible person as far as one-on-one interviews. He makes the guests feel very comfortable, makes them relax, make them feel like they're at home, and he gets the best interviews. And a lot of people don't give Shannon Sharpe his flowers on his interviewing skills. And I know I have mentioned this in previous videos. I just want to put that out there. Genuinely, I have never met Shannon Sharpe, but genuinely, the sense I gather from Shannon Sharpe, he is a good guy. He's not big-headed. He's not this, that. He's not vindictive or have ill will attentions towards anyone. I think he's a good guy from the outside looking in, from afar. I have never met him personally. I have never spoken to him personally, publicly or privately. But this is not the first time Shannon Sharpe had an incident with other people, and I've listed this on this very channel. And the great thing Shannon Sharpe has done as a player and as a analyst and as an influencer, as a content creator, there's just not enough words in the English dictionary to define how great Shannon Sharpe is. However, let's just pause for a second. Shannon Sharpe is not holier than thou. Shannon Sharpe has done a lot of things in his past that he has done some wrong too. Okay, he's got dirt on his hands as well. And I'm not going to talk about the CBS Sports thing, because still to this day I feel like it's a he said she said type of situation. I try to steer clear from stuff like that. But I will say this about Shannon Sharpe: when his time on Undisputed, first and foremost, Skip Bayless was wrong of, mocking Shannon Sharpe on live television. Not to put the glasses back on, but, all the other stuff. But this is a product of, and I feel like there's blame between Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless. Shannon Sharpe has been poking and prodding Skip Bayless to get Skip Bayless to a boiling point. And even though I'm not blaming all that on Shannon Sharpe, Skip Bayless does deserve some blame. Shannon Sharpe has said some things on Undisputed that's very questionable. He tears down a lot of players that have legacies just to build up someone else's legacy, i.e. LeBron James. But and he has said some things about Kwame Brown as well as other people when he was on Undisputed. Okay? And I'm not going to go down the line of all the things he has said on Undisputed. But let's quit this narrative of Shannon Sharpe can do no wrong. He's holier than thou. He also had the incident in Memphis with John Morant and his father. The Memphis Grizzlies organization, the fans out there, he was acting a total donkey on that. And that's the only time I have ever heard Shannon Sharpe apologize and say he could have, if he could do that again, he would do things differently. And he accepts full responsibility for that. So Shannon Sharpe has had moments in his career where, he was in the wrong. But it's very rare to get Shannon Sharpe to admit that he is wrong. And I agree with everything Shannon Sharpe said to Ochocinco. Everything he said was valid. However, I do feel like that should have been handled privately. Now, I feel like there's a method to the madness on why he did that publicly. And I'm pretty sure he has said those things privately to Chad Johnson. And Chad Johnson continues to be Chad Johnson. All right. And maybe this is a way of trying to show Chad Johnson that he believes in Chad Johnson. He wants Chad Johnson to do better, and maybe publicly scolding him on on social media. He would get the point, and he would change his ways or change the way how he moves, or something like that. Maybe this is a method to the madness of Shannon Sharpe saying, hey, I'm going to do this not to tear him down, but hopefully he takes this in front of everybody, and maybe this will make Chad Johnson think things a little bit better. I think this did more harm than good. Personally, I don't like this tactic that a lot of, and everyone has worked, everyone has had a boss, and everyone has had this type of boss that would do a tactic like this. To me, airing out private situations publicly never result in anything good. Me being a boss, having a boss, I would never publicly air out someone's private business. All right. Private business is private business. I don't think what you got to say to that person privately, everyone should know it. Okay. I think it does the opposite. If it makes bad employees worse, it turns good employees bad. There's nothing good that's going to come out of that. All right. And that's just bad leadership. I think Shannon Sharpe, that's bad leadership on Shannon Sharpe's part. And, and being to double down on that, to say he could have, if you didn't want to apologize to everyone on social media, which, by the way, this is the same social media, Shannon Sharpe, that you promote when you was on Skip and Shannon, talking about how big of a star you are. But the same people that you depended on Undisputed to say how big of a star you are, now all these people were wrong. All right. My thing of it is, Shannon Sharpe, to double down and to just sit there and just hold serve. And if you didn't want to apologize, you could at least said, well, maybe I handled that situation a little wrong, and strategize something else to Chad Johnson. All right. And maybe I shouldn't have said that publicly. I should have kept that in private. All right. Even if you didn't want to apologize to social media, I think you'd have been good that way. But to double down on this and to, be, and to make another video doubling down on this is just not good. All right. It's just not good. It makes you look weak. It also makes you look like, you're no different than Skip Bayless. I would expect something like this from Skip Bayless. I would, or Stephen A. Smith. I definitely wouldn't expect this from Shannon Sharpe. So I was kind of thrown off by that. But to Chad Johnson, if y'all listen to the other video when Shannon Sharpe is explaining himself and he allowed Chad Johnson to say something, if you can read the room and if you can check the temperature in the room, Chad Johnson is basically telling Shannon Sharpe, look, I'm not changing for you. I'm still going to be the same Chad Johnson. I was popular before I met you. I'm going to continue to be popular after, before and after you. And this could lead into friction between the two. I'm not going to say it's going to lead into friction. It would not surprise me none if Chad Johnson, bounce away from Nightcap and find something else. This is totally the MO of Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson went from ESPN. He was on a bunch of shows on ESPN, bounced from ESPN inside the NFL. He also did he did the Pivot podcast. He was in and out of that. This stance Shannon Sharpe has, it may be a fracture in their relationship. and into their chemistry. And those are the two things you don't want fractures in. If you don't believe me, then the relationship he had with Skip Bayless was fractured. The chemistry was off, and look where that ended up. Okay, but I felt like Chad Johnson, even though he said he was okay with it, I think the rest of the stuff that he said, he should have just said that privately to Shannon Sharpe, and not mentioned that publicly. Because now, since you throw this out on the public airwaves, now people are going like, oh, wait a minute. It seems like Chad Johnson is bucking the system of Shannon Sharpe. There are multiple ways of getting to the apple being successful. One way isn't always the best way or the perfect way. And Chad Johnson is never going to be like Shannon Sharpe. And Shannon Sharpe is never going to be like Chad Johnson. So why try to force somebody into something that they're not? Okay? That's not authentic. That's not believable. And I think moving forward, something smaller than this situation happens, it can be blown up way out of proportion like it was. I agree with everything Shannon Sharpe said, but Shannon Sharpe should have said those things privately to Chad Johnson. Chad Johnson, I understand how you feel, but you shouldn't publicly tell everybody that, okay? And you can clearly tell he was frustrated at Shannon Sharpe on the stuff Shannon Sharpe said initially. Now, as far as technical difficulties and things of that nature, that stuff happens. There's nothing your staff is going to do to make sure that's not going to happen again. Technical difficulties are technical difficulties. They happen. There's nothing you can do. It just happens, all right? It just happens. You just got to deal with whatever you have to deal with. But I also see, it's different. And I think Shannon Sharpe is understanding this a lot clearer. It's different when, you work for somebody and when somebody works for you. When you got your livelihood, your reputation, your money on the line, all right? It's different when you're the bus driver instead of the bus rider. And I think Shannon Sharpe is understanding that very, very clear that, he has advertisers to answer to. He has sponsors to listen to. All right. Now it's not a 4-man group. Now he's employing more than 12 people just to do Nightcap. Ain't no telling how many people he hired for Club Shay Shay. Okay. And now he's looking at this like, is this the best strategy to have all this personnel here? I need to have an exit strategy if things are not like they are right now. And with content, as a content creator, you have up and down months. Some months you're through the roof. Other months the limit is the roof and much lower. So you always have to change your business model month to month, because what you made one month as a content creator doesn't mean you're going to make that same amount of money the next month. It may be a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, okay? And I think Shannon Sharpe is starting to understand this, okay? There's, when everyone says I want to go independent, technically you get to call your own shots, but technically you're really not independent because, you got sponsors to deal with, okay? You got viewerships to deal with. You got subscribers to deal with. You got memberships to deal with, okay? There's 1,001 things you got to deal with when you're the boss, all right? And I think Shannon Sharpe is understanding the knives only get sharper, okay? And so I think Shannon Sharpe is a decent guy. I just think he handled this situation wrong, but to double down on it is not helping your case anymore. And I think Chad Johnson, even though what you said was true, I think you should have told that to Chad Johnson privately. I'm pretty sure he have told this many times to Chad Johnson privately, and Chad Johnson's not listening, so he's saying, hey, Let me say this publicly, and maybe it will change him. Oh, and it could change him in the worst way, and it could change him in the best way. So we'll have to wait and see. But guys, tell me what you think. Rate, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys when I see you.